We should be live with a little bit of elbow grease and a healthy amount of technical difficulty. We have arrived for the second Sunday of Sacred Saturday Sundays, Sacred Science Sundays. Oh my goodness. So what is the topic this week? This week I'll be talking about leadership and emotion. And specifically how women play into this whole conversation. And there's been a lot of conversations about gender role and leadership, and I just felt like this was a super prevalent thing to dive into, and it brought me back to a time, that I can recall. I was with some coworkers, all women, millennials. We were having kind of like a business leadership coffee time after work and talking about like, why is it that we can't cry at work? Like, why is that such an epically terrible thing to happen for women in the workplace to, reach this state where you have to cry, which is like so human. So it's really interesting. I reviewed 2 articles. The first one was about just kind of general emotional perception, and it's interesting because when you measure it, like women and men, we have the same amount of emotion, and it's really just how much emotion we're showing in the workplace and just in general. Hey Gianna, thanks for popping in. I hope you enjoy and feel free to stick around. But so it's like this idea that we have equal amounts of emotion, but it's how much emotion we display and the perceptions that are different, right? So there's generally this idea that like too much emotion is just not good for women, that when we're too bold, when we're too forward, when we're too like independent, that is also perceived poorly. And really, we kind of have a lot of double standards in perception too. So the big factors that they pointed out were communality, which would be like your warmth, your personal connection with others in the workplace, and agency. So these are 2 aspects of emotion that are both desired, but then, kind of not desired when there's too much of it. So just in gender roles, we expect women to show up and have deep relationships with others, to be friendly, and when that is not happening, there's kind of a negative connotation to how their work performance is. And then with agency, I think that even more so, they pointed out in the article, like too much independence, too many ideas, speaking up too much is not really accepted well either. So, sort of finding these balances. And I want to focus mostly on like the positive and the pragmatic things that came away from the reading that I did, versus just telling you all of these double standards that exist, because in truth it's not that helpful, right, to know that like there's a lot of double standards out there. So what is helpful, right? And what is helpful is this idea of emotional control and further emotional stability. So it's not the idea that we don't have emotion at work, it's just that we're able to be more stable about it. And then they gave some really good examples of research settings where exuding emotion and expressing emotion, both positive and negative, was helpful. So they took gamblers. They have all these different gamblers, and they, have different groups in the study that either express negative emotion or positive emotion. So the gamblers that expressed more outward negative emotion when they were losing, they made better choices, right? So they were able to be more rational as the result of their emotion, which is not what you would expect with what our perception of, emotion in the workplace generally, and women and emotion in the workplace is that if there is too much emotion, there is no rationality and things are not going to get done correctly. So that was actually not true, when you looked at it in study setting. And then the same was true with anytime we study the brain, like brain injury is a great way to grasp these concepts. So they looked at people with traumatic brain injury in the emotional center, and people who had that emotional center shut off as a result of a brain injury made more risky and irrational behaviors. So kind of goes to show that that emotion could be helpful. So the next part of this, and the second thing that I read that I thought was super cool and helpful, was how do we become like emotion-led leaders, heart-led leadership. So the title, I got it here, of this one was Leading to Win Hearts and Minds, which just, I was like, oh, that's so good. So they talked about this idea of naked leadership, that vulnerability, building trust with others, and really showing up in a very raw, emotional way was super effective in creating cultures. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still this double standard, and emotion can be perceived very differently based on gender roles, but you know, it was really just kind of astounding how effective this was in many cases, that you know, you were able to create this place of compassion. And really what it made me reflect on, putting these two things together, is that it's well-regulated, genuine emotion. That is the sweet spot, in my opinion. Now, I am not the researchers of this article. I'm, you know, a master's student at Wayne State, and I just read them and interpreted them and blended them with my understanding of mindfulness and business. And it's this idea, hi Summer, that, you know, people can feel our genuine emotion. So when we're showing up at work, excuse me, sweetie, come on, over here, yes, please, so people can feel our genuine emotion, right? So if you are meditating before work, if you are really getting yourself into these places where you're showing up in servitude and compassion and true care and true trust of others, that they're going to feel that. And if we're showing up to work, you know, trusting, caring just because we're supposed to, that is felt too. You know, so really when it comes to leadership, I would say it's an inside job, and that when we're well regulated through our emotions and, you know, meditation and embracing positive emotion and being the crafters of emotion, right? So that we can use emotion as women and heart-based leaders to be really powerful. Because sure, like, we may have more expression of emotion, but we have positive and negative emotion. So that might allow us to be more inspirational than someone else, more compassionate, able to have more empathy. So a really awesome mentor of mine says emotions are superpowers, and that's kind of what I was hoping to read in the research, and I definitely found some aspects of that. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this, and thank you so much for bearing with me through my tech issues. So happy I was able to get online with you. If you have any questions about the research, I will post the articles below. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you're catching these later. And next week, we are going to have guest Matt Raymond, a registered dietitian, on with me to talk about the role of organic versus non-organic food. So I'm really excited for that. We're going to dive deep into the research on that next time. Until then, I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Continue to do your research, live well, be well, shine holy. Have a wonderful and beautiful Sunday. Bye.